Caldwell Conversation. I get to be here today with my friend and colleague Kristen Plasman. She's one of our administrators at Caldwell, and I thought it would be really neat to talk about one of the tools of learning, which is listening. The 5 tools are how to listen well, how to read well, how to write well, how to speak well, and how to think well. Those are the tools that we're endeavoring to develop in our students at Caldwell as a classical Christian school. I want to talk about listening. We have an image-based culture these days. Listening is a skill that's maybe not as practiced. Tell me why you think it's an important tool for all of us to learn.
I totally agree with you. It's a very important tool. The Bible tells us that from listening comes understanding. And of course, if we want to be lifelong learners and if we want to be in good relationships here on this earth, we have to be good listeners. And so, but as you said, there are not as many natural opportunities for our children to learn listening as there used to be. And so proactively teaching it in the classroom is a very important thing. In the middle school years, they're learning how to, the logic phase, they're learning how to kind of defend some things and support statements that they make. And in order to do that, you need to understand. And in order to understand, you need to listen. So whether it's listening to new content or it's listening to other people to understand their perspective better so that you can make a good argument, I think all important.
You make a point about middle schoolers in particular. I'm wondering if there's some things that you would point out, like this is why maybe it's uniquely important for middle schoolers to learn, preteen, teenage years, to learn how to listen. Yeah.
Well, they're so emotional. I mean, developmentally, they're hitting puberty. Their bodies are surging with hormones. And also developmentally, they're asking a lot of questions. They start to have stronger opinions and beliefs, and they're owning them rather than just regurgitating what they have heard growing up. And so teaching them, the Bible tells us to listen first, right, and not to speak first, and that it's foolish to speak first. And so middle school, I think it's imperative that we address this with them because they are naturally emotional responders, and their emotions are all over the place. One minute they're high, and the next minute they're low, and that could all be within the same discussion. And so, and additionally, they're gaining the Holy Spirit a lot of times in these teenage years and owning their faith. And we all know that a fruit of the Spirit is self-control. And so, and that's part of listening.
Yes, very good. Let's do a little bit of a deep dive into how we teach listening at Caldwell. What are a couple things that come to mind, ways that we teach them?
Proactively in the classroom, I would say just through some activity-driven things. So oral instructions, oral tests, but we also teach discussion in the classroom. And I think one of the most important skills about discussion, even though most people would think it would be about talking, is really about listening. You can't defend your opinion against someone else if you haven't heard what their perspective is and what they think about it. And so those are a few ways that we're proactively working in the classroom to teach them. And it's difficult because we do live in an age where we have information accessible in a lot of different places. But so sometimes we have to set them up in a situation where if you don't listen, then you don't have the information you need, and it's not available anywhere else. And that's kind of like at home too. We want our kids to listen the first time. But if they didn't hear what we said and process it, then sometimes that they don't follow through, and then we have to teach them the lessons like that. So proactive, very proactive.
Training is the word I'm thinking of.
Yes.
Speaking of training, a lot of what we do as parents is not so much what we say, but what we do. And so our kids are watching us model for them different ways of being a person. What are some things that parents could think about in how they're modeling listening for their student, their child?
Yeah, for sure. This is a super convicting topic for me. Busyness gets in the way, I think, of being a good listener and modeling that for our kids. But I would say 2 areas where I think we can be good models of listening are when we're with them. A lot of times we're at home or in the car and we have other things going on. We're the queens of multitasking as mothers, but prioritizing listening to them and modeling that, sitting down, putting down the phone, turning off the TV, focusing on them. Especially in particular with teenagers, since they don't always talk when we want them to, but they talk when we're tired or busy, kind of saying, no, it's a priority. Let me sit down and listen to what you're saying and understand how you're feeling or what you're thinking and meet you in that. And then I would also say that they're watching us in our relationships around, just in our personal life. And so how are we modeling listening when we're in discussions or when we're interacting with our friends or even just the community around us? Are we are we listening and gaining understanding of their perspective before we chime in with our own opinion? And so I think both of those are great ways to model that for our kids.
Those are great thoughts. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you for being here with me, and thank you for
Thanks.
everything you do at Caldwell.
Happy to be
Really
here.
appreciate you.
Thanks, April.
Thanks for listening to our Caldwell Conversation. I'd love to invite you to come on campus for a personal tour to learn more about who we are and what we offer here at Caldwell Academy. Thank you.